So it was a really disappointing season in 2030-31, but ultimately not disastrous because we managed to escape relegation on that last day with a playoff. So onwards and upwards. Really, really big season now because we are in a lot of financial difficulties, but we still have enough decent players that I think with a couple of additions and the right sales, and the sales are going to be important because they will raise the money that will mean that we can afford to do that, then maybe we could improve this team enough that we could be into that top half. Bear in mind, in the first half of the season with this squad, we were around the top half, if not quite in it. And so it shouldn't take much to make this team from not very good, probably relegation candidate, to top half easily, and maybe even pushing for that playoffs. The plan this year is really hard for top half, but I do want it to be top half this year. It's very much the target. Let's see if we can start by building up and having a look at how we can do that. So we're going to start by having a look at the squad, and then I'll take you through this transfer window. Right, so here we are with the squad for this season. You can see we've got only the one player, and it's the goalkeeper with the highest average rating, which I don't think I've ever seen before, the goalkeeper being the only person over 7. That's very, very unusual in FM. And he's certainly done well, Samuel Perizan. With the departure of Drago last year, I was a bit worried, and I definitely needed a backup. Couldn't find one, or at least not one I could afford. And Perizan's he was absolutely fantastic. He really was. I think he was never present. Yes, he was, because there's no other goalkeepers here. I've got rid of anyone who didn't play. So yeah, played every single game this season, and just did a fantastic job all season. He had a little bit of a blip during that really, really bad run towards the end of the season, but other than that, he was really, really excellent. Absolutely mountain of a keeper. Nearly 2 meters tall, obviously makes a big difference with a keeper, but he has had a fantastic season. So well done to him. Other than that, though, it's not a lot of positives here. Stroudey was good, quite pleased with him, but at 30, I don't really see him being a mainstay of the team for long. Other than that, there really wasn't a lot to shout about. There were a couple of players who did okay in patches. Abdullah Bassett had a really good end to the season, for example. Colucci had a few places where he was quite good, but really there wasn't anyone here. I mean, put it this way, I don't think there's a single player in this squad who I would desperately want to keep this summer. Colucci in particular might be a bit vulnerable, along with actually Roller as well. Probably the two longest serving players we've had in this save. Both of them, I think, it may be time to move them on. In the case of Roller, I don't know if anyone will want him. He's just not very good. He's really shown this year that he's not the player that I thought he was going to be. I'd been suspecting that for a while, of course. But yeah, you look back at that season in particular, I really thought that was the season that he would really kick on. And it never really happened. And it's a real shame because I thought he was going to be an absolute superstar for us for a while. And that's clearly not the case any longer. So I am probably looking to get rid of a couple of them. Probably Colucci, probably Roller. But we will see how that goes, certainly. So, yeah, it's a sad season, really, in many ways. Bolzan got 12 goals, which is better than we have had before, to be fair. At least we have got a striker as our top scorer for the first time in a while, I think. And Meloni was definitely a bit of a hit, even if he tailed off a bit at the end of the season. But there's a lack of goals in the team, and that's really shown with that ridiculously poor run of results we had from January onwards, where we just barely won a game until that final 2 games where suddenly we found our form. I can't really explain what happened here. Something just clicked and I don't quite know what it was. It was strange, but hey ho. So yeah, that's what we are in terms of this season. I'll quickly just show you the top 5 in terms of appearance makers, and it is predictable that Roller has just extended his lead. Colucci catching up with Gioldi, and it may well be that one of them at least will leave this summer. So this could be well, I mean, I doubt, to be honest, that I'll get rid of both of them just because I'm not sure if I'll get the interest for them. But if we were to, then it may be that this list doesn't move for a little while. And there's no one really that close behind these two. So if these two do leave, then this will stay the same at least for a couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years really, which is probably a good thing because it shows that the club is moving on. And we've sort of shown some ambition to try and improve the squad. Hasn't really happened, mainly due to financial issues. But there are efforts being made, certainly. In terms of goals, Gilda, you can see, well, way out on top still, almost twice as much as anyone else. And Francesco Rolla is the only one currently at the club who is in this list. You would obviously hope that Bolzan will stay and will enter that list next year. If he has a better season, then he could actually possibly even get up towards Brigliadori. But we will see about that and whether that's something we can hope to look forward to next season. But certainly there's a problem in terms of getting the top goal scorer that I really need in this side. So hopefully that's something I can do next season. So I'm now going to spend quite a lot of time, and I think this is going to be quite a difficult summer, looking through who we can sell, who we can buy, and I'll be back with every significant update with you throughout the summer window. As soon as anything happens, you will know about it. So I will see you in a second. And here we are with the season updates. We've got Gabriele Pizzone, who's come into the main 11 of the historic team, which is a bit premature, I think. I'm not entirely convinced about that. He may also be leaving, by the way. So I'm sceptical about that as a choice. Perizan is the other player, and that makes much more sense. He's been definitely the best, one of the best. Well, average rating wise, he was the best player this season. Overtakes Giacomo Drago as the best keeper in our history, according to the game. I'm not going to bother with that. Season review wise, we look through. Got Straudi, who had a decent season. I was pretty pleased with him. Landolfini didn't really happen. I mean, it didn't cost anything, so it's fine, but it didn't. He just didn't look great. Calzola, perhaps we overpaid for him. He's got quite high wages, I think, as well. 177,000 a year. That's probably overdoing it. Coccolo, again, I've probably overpaid for him. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, I think I overpaid a bit. And then Ralph Sommer, nice cheap purchase, and that was perfectly fine, I think. In terms of the outs, oh goodness me, it's a bit worrying. Although these are all with small teams, so I'm not too worried. These are all people who didn't really fit in. Kanate was a bit disappointing, perhaps, to sell him for so little. Same with Lacti, to lose him on a free. But I think that's one of those things. Drago, probably a good idea in terms of getting the transfer fee. Malaspina and Cesarelli, both significant fees, and they haven't done well. So that looks to me like very, very good business. And that's pretty good. In terms of the results, C+, we staved off relegation. I wanted more. I wanted to finish somewhere around here. 60 points was the target. It would have got us 8th. Bit disappointing, really, that we couldn't do that. If you look at that little run there, it was so poor. When you have a run like that, you can't really expect to be anywhere near the middle of the table. And then in the Coppa Italia, we got spanked by Empoli, which wasn't unexpected. And it's one of those things, really. You're playing a team from a division above, it will happen sometimes. Got a big win against Cesena, another win against Virtus and Tella, which is a good match to remember. And then that goal of the season came in the relegation playoff, in fact, the Straudi goal, which that was probably the crucial goal in just making it absolutely clear that we were going to win that game. We probably had won it by then, but you never know. Jesse Libertas could have scored a couple of late goals like we did. It wasn't impossible, and instead we scored those 2 late goals that they needed, so that was fine. Sponsorship got up a little bit. That broadcast revenue's gone up quite a lot, £250,000 more than last year. That's impressive. I don't know quite why. It might be because we had those 2 games at the end, which would have been broadcast. I'm not sure. And then match day revenue up. So everything's up a little bit, but the problem is we are so far in the red at the moment that it's a drop in the ocean, really. And then the best 11 for this year, as you would expect, probably Coccolo at left back is a slightly odd choice, but other than that, and Volta as well, maybe. But other than that, it's fairly obvious that this is the one. Meloni and Bolzan, probably the 2 outfield players I was most happy with this year. There's work to be done with this team, I think. It's fair to say. Perizan gets player of the season, quite rightly. And there's nothing really there that is particularly surprising. We've seen a lot of that already. Luca Meloni, particularly poor discipline, which is a bit of an issue. Francesco Rolla, according to this, he's now the leading league appearances, which is not the one I'm tracking. I track the overall, which he broke last year. But it's good to know that he's got that new landmark as far as the game is concerned, because I do like Rolla. He was, I would say, the first really impressive region that we got, and whilst he hasn't really fulfilled his potential, there's a decent player there. He's done a good job for me, even if it's not been brilliant. So hopefully he can go on and have a good career somewhere. I don't think it's going to be here. As far as this season's concerned, they want us to fight bravely against relegation again. Now, I want to do better than that, but I will accept it. I want to be established. I mean, I think we're nearly established already. Obviously, we had a poor season this year, but that was a surprise. So this team obviously think that we're going to really struggle again next year. I want to really improve things, but I'm not going to make promises that I can because I'm not sure if I can. Just money is the issue here. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Scouting will begin in earnest now, and I will be back with you very, very shortly. See if there's anything here. There we are, scouting budget. It's not a lot. See what we can do. Hopefully, we can get a couple of players in who will just push us to that moment where we can say that we've got a team that is mid-table for Serie B. That really needs to happen this season. I'll see you in a sec with further updates about the squad. Right, and the first significant transfer is complete. You can see Lorenzo Calzola, who's actually been one of the better players, but he's certainly not outstanding. And I just think for the amount of money that I'm going to get for him, 175,000, we need the money, and it's just something that we can start to hopefully churn the players over. I'm sure I can find someone as good as him for free for roughly the same wages. If we have to pay 200,000 a year for him, then that's fine because we've got the 175,000 banked from the transfer fee. So my thinking at the moment is just to try and replace these players with players who are roughly the same quality for free. Even if the wages are a bit higher, then we can actually deal with that because we can cover it with the transfer fees that we've got. So that's the hope. Of course, finding those players is another matter, but fingers crossed. Right, we now have one further out. It hasn't actually gone through yet, but I'm sure Ancona will be off to Pisa shortly. Hasn't really been much of a success. Came in, he's scored 4 goals in about 25 games. It's not really good enough, so he's been sent out. Obviously, £100,000 a year saved on wages. Possibly could have got a little bit more, given that we did get 60,000 was what we offered him for. Got 2 bids straight away. Possibly could have got a bit more, but we are going to get Gianluca Pellicano, who looks to me like a really good player. Obviously, there is some leeway here for how we don't know exactly what he's going to be like. But I think he looks to me like a very good player. We will have a look once he does arrive, which is actually only 5 days away, but he will arrive then, and I'll show you when he does get there. Back in a second. And now another player who's on his way out is Nicola Volta for about £50,000. Hasn't really done much for me. He was all right in his first season. Second season, he dropped off a bit, and it's not really much of a... It's a no-brainer, really, that he heads out. We're going to be looking to improve this team by also making some money. And we're starting to do that. We've got Gianluca Pellicano coming in for a maximum of £65,000, but we've also got Calzola going out for £175,000. We've got Volta going out for £46,000. So we should be making a significant profit this summer in terms of transfer fees. Even if we are paying some of the players a little bit more, hopefully that will help our budgets in the future and start to make the club a little bit more stable. So if I can do that with any more players, people like Cocolo, that might be someone else I can be trying to do that with. He's got another year on his contract. If we can get him in there is some interest. It's only on loan. Vibonese might be interested. That could be something that could help us because it's another £120,000 a year we could save. And whilst I won't get a huge amount for him, even if I can get, say, £30,000, then that gives us something that we can then invest into other people's wages. More wages than transfer fees. But yeah, that's kind of my thinking at the moment, and it seems to be sort of gradually working. So hopefully I will come back with some more information on that soon. And here we have confirmation that Giovan Battista Ancona is the next person out. £60,000 again into the club coffers, plus obviously saving on his wages. It is starting to come together, this plan of just trying to get these players sold on, get some churn, and hopefully with that money being able to invest it into some very, very good players. That's what I'm planning to do here. And another big out, Cocolo out for £30,000. It doesn't sound like a lot, but these things add up and add up and add up. And that's the plan here, as I say. Get players out, lots and lots of money, and get players in for generally less money. Pellicano has come in and is definitely an upgrade in that building midfield area. I've also changed my tactic this year slightly. It's not that dissimilar, but the main difference is that instead of having the half-back, I've gone for a shadow striker instead. I want to improve that shadow striker, but I feel like in this season we've just not scored enough goals. Bolzan was probably quite he was very isolated at times, so I hope that will make that difference a little bit. There are a few positions we clearly need some work on. I think we certainly need a new right winger because Roller's not really been doing it. Meloni, he had quite a good season last year, but whether he's going to be as good as we need him to be, I'm not convinced by him. I think probably would rather see him in the centre of midfield anyway. So two wingers would certainly be the main things alongside the shadow striker, which I want to improve because I don't think Ralph Sommer is really that. He's more of an out and out. So I'd rather have him as a backup to Bolzan and have a shadow striker behind. Although of course, if Sommer is a backup in both positions, then that would work perfectly fine too. But we certainly need to get that shadow striker so that we can make sure we have that person who will allow that to happen. And Selmo could play there as well, but he's not really good enough, and I see him more as a backup in the right wing area. So for now, this is our team. There are a few positions, as I say, that I want to improve on, namely right wing, left wing, and shadow striker. But other than that, I'm quite happy with this first 11. We probably need a little bit more depth, but other than that, I'm pretty pleased. So I will be back in a sec with hopefully a bit more depth. It is proving, as I thought it would be, a bit of a struggle this season to get the players in that we want. Stipa has gone out on loan. Young striker started to think he may not quite make it with us because he had a really, really poor Series C season last year. But I'm going to give him another chance this year and see what happens. I brought in Bafodé Guichard as the sort of replacement for him in the squad. He's very much not a first choice or even a second choice striker. But there is some promising things there. He's obviously on loan at the moment. The plan is to see if we can perhaps get him on a free transfer at the end of the season. Whether that will be possible, I don't know. My guess is if I want him, I probably won't be able to. If I don't, then I'll be able to. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm not particularly optimistic about that. As you can see, the squad is starting to look a little bit more complete now, though. We have got, apart from a backup goalkeeper, we have now got a decent squad in terms of I'm happy with this. I'd like a little bit more quality. There are a few positions, namely the shadow striker and the two wings, where I do want to upgrade, possibly also in central midfield as well, but we will see about that. So that's where we are now. We are now in August, and we've got 18 days, is it, until the league starts. Obviously, we have got Pescara in the Coppa Italia. Hopefully, that might be our first Coppa Italia win, and we will have that as our first game of the season, and that will be the end of this video. But I will hopefully be back before that with some news of some more transfers. Back in a second. Folks, we finally have two goalkeepers. It's taken us a while to have that. We had, obviously, last season we had Perizan and only Perizan, really. We now have Agostini as well. And I have promised him first choice. I'm not convinced I've made the right decision there. I probably couldn't have got him otherwise, and I was struggling to find anyone else. But I think I may have made a mistake. Who does this think is better? You probably want the green. Agostini is probably slightly better. There's not a lot in it. But I think for the moment, at least, Agostini will go in as the first choice keeper. And that is starting now to look like a pretty full squad in terms of depth. And now we just need to worry about quality, particularly on the wings. And that's the shadow striker role. So that's the two things now that we need to try and sort out. The shadow striker and two wingers. So three players in total. And then if we can try and get someone in to improve on Straudy, as something I would consider as well. And then the striker is the final thing, but I think that's probably going to be pushing it this season, particularly now that we've got Guichard in. I don't think we need it necessarily. But certainly wingers and the shadow striker are still a big, big problem for us, and that's something that I will be looking to fix in the next few, weeks, including after the season starts. We're playing Pescara in 9 days in the Coppa Italia, hoping to make some progress in that competition. So I will be back either when we get a new signing or then. And we are going to round off this video with the first game of the season, which is the Coppa Italia. And for the first time, we're playing a team in our division against Pescara. So we'll be heading for the second round, I hope. Certainly a game that we can win. Whether we will, of course, is another matter. So since you were last here, I think we've signed one player. Did we sign Cristiani? I'm not sure. We may or may not have done. Backup left winger, good backup, but only a backup, and we're really struggling to fill those 3 slots that we wanted to fill in terms of improving on what we had before. We have backup for them, which is good. It's what we needed. But in terms of improving, we've really, really struggled, and that's something that I need to try and work on in the couple of weeks we've got left in the transfer window, but it's not looking good at the moment. So, yeah, we'll see how things go. for now, I think this is the team that we're going to go for today. And against Pescara, we should have a fighting chance, I hope. We have had a slight switch in our tactic this year, as I said before, using a shadow striker for the first time in a while. Sommer will be that shadow striker as it stands. It's not really what I wanted, but I don't think Anselmo is quite good enough to do that role at the moment. He could be in the future, but I'm not entirely convinced that he ever will be. So Cristiani gets number 8, and the teams come out to warm up. And here we go. Erling Haaland against Vicenzo Torrente. Any players here I recognise? No players here who used to play for us. So let's hope that we can get a crucial win here to get us through to another round of the Coppa Italia. It's not the most lucrative trophy. In terms of money, it's kind of not really worth it unless you get to the quarter-final, which is extremely unlikely. But I do think that in terms of increasing the stature of the club, if we can win a couple of games in this competition, it might be quite helpful. Because one thing we haven't really done since we started getting into Serie B is really sort of grow the club in terms of reputation. And that could be the first step to, and this might be a goal, no, it could be the first step to being able to afford some of the players who we could probably afford if they didn't want an extra bonus for the fact that they were coming to a team who were a little lower on reputation. In other words, I'm hoping that the reputation will bring players who might come to us with a lot of money and allow them to come to us for a little less money. That's kind of my thinking at the moment in terms of why the Coppa Italia could be useful for us. And if we can win this, it will be a step in the right direction. I don't think we've won yet in the Coppa, mainly because we've been drawing teams in Serie A every year. This, I think, is the first Serie B side we've played in the Coppa Italia. So we are well underway, as you can see. There hasn't been any massive chances yet, but now there has been one, and Sommer feeds Bolzan, and Bolzan gets his account underway in the new season, and we are ahead in the Coppa Italia, possibly for the first time. Genuinely can't remember. Papetti now to Rolla. Gets the cross in again. Looking good here. Pescara and Dolphin looking very, very vulnerable at the moment because we've been all over them in the first 20 minutes. But of course, as soon as I say that, things are likely to change. And there is plenty of time for that to happen. Agostini, the new goalkeeper. Perizan is still on the bench and certainly available. If Agostini was to go through a bad run, then we can bring him in. There's not a huge amount in it in terms of the quality of the two keepers. And I'd be perfectly happy to have either of them. But I certainly needed another goalkeeper because having just the one, it was very, very dangerous. And Agostini probably just shades it at the moment. So he is the man in possession. But as I say, this season, unlike last, we can switch them around if Agostini has a bad patch. But today, so far anyway, he's been inspired. Kept a couple of good shots out. And Seschlar gets the cross in. Cleared away for another corner. It was wasted by Pescara. Just headed harmlessly over. And Giliberti manages to get himself sent off. It's a really silly tackle to make from what I could see there. It looked like a pretty blatant red card, to be honest. And we have a problem. This is one of the few areas where we don't have a huge amount of backup. So what we can do is bring on Glazer. It's going to be Sommer. We bring on Glazer and we put Papetti at left back. And we just go flat 4-4-1 and hope that we can hold on. They're already on cautious, so I think I'm just going to hope that we can see this out at least till half time, and then we can re-establish our dominance, perhaps. We're actually going to go defensive until then, thinking about it. Just to get us through till half time. I'm not intending to go defensive for the whole game, it's too much. But until half time, we can just hold on and be careful, and that's fine. Bolzan, playing it safe, that's what I want at this stage. Glazer now. Get another goal, that would be another. Bolzan! Roller finds Bolzan, and it's 2-0. And we have scored with 10 men for what feels like the fourth or fifth time in a row, which is excellent. And that really does make us, feel a little bit better about the fact that we are down to 10 men. And hopefully this is now a game that we could actually hold on to and get that win, despite that man disadvantage that we have. Giacomo to Felici. Looking dangerous again. But we are holding quite a good line here, and everyone is back, and it's be careful, but nothing you can do when you get a header as good as that. Great header from Felici from a very good cross, and there's absolutely nothing whatsoever that Agostini could do about that. Not his fault at all. And we will go in with a lead, but with a very slim lead instead of the 2-0 lead that we had moments ago. Or at least I hope we will. Felici, Zingaro. And that goes over the bar. So we hopefully will now see it. Yes, I'm sure we will now. Out until half time. Right. Given that we're a man down, we are going to struggle, I think, in the second half. But I don't think going completely defensive is the answer. I think if we invite that much pressure onto us, it's just going to be asking for trouble. We need to go out there and try and get a third goal that would make us a little bit more comfortable. Not giving away a penalty would be helpful, but luckily that person was offside anyway. Elicano, new signing here, is not having the greatest of games and he's struggling for fitness now. So I think I'm going to bring on Vignola. And Bolzan now runs with it. Can he finish this off? No, not quite. Another goal you do feel would be the end of the story for this game. Straudy gives the ball away carelessly, really. Straudy again. Roller. Done well there. Back to Vignola. Bolzan. Roller. Good attacking. We've been really good going forward today, I have to say. I don't think it's. I'm looking at these and the ratings seem rather low to me. I feel like we've been better than these suggest. Right, we are now down to the bare bones in terms of defensive players, which is a bit of a problem. May need to sign a new right back at some point. And Pescara pushing for that equaliser. Shoots. Agostini makes an absolutely superb save. And the rebound just goes into the side netting. Absolutely brilliant stop there from the brand new keeper Agostini, who's actually, I think has had a really good game here today. We'll go even more defensive now, given that we are struggling a little bit and we are down to 10 men, of course. Last thing we need, though, is going down to 9, and then we can't make another substitution, unfortunately. So there's nothing I can do now except hope that we can just hold on. I'm going to bring my wingers back a bit, just get them to contribute a little bit more. And if we get Bolzan to just hold the ball up for us, hopefully, and then we'll get these guys back in defending. In fact, we'll have no-nonsense fullbacks. Just get it out, folks. Don't worry about doing anything fancy. Just get it out. 10 minutes to hold on. Di Filippo. Antonio shoots and can't get through the crowd of players in the box there, which is good. Giacomo, and there we go. Zingaro does get the goal eventually. And it kind of has been coming. We've been pretty heroic with 10 men. I think we've done a pretty good job there. 10 men for 50 minutes of the game. And we managed to hold on for the win. Well, 7 minutes away from it. 7 minutes plus stoppage time. You've got to think now, assuming it goes to extra time, which I think it does, you've got to think that we are going to be struggling to hold on to it for too much longer. And it may well be that we do make an exit from the Copa at this point, which would be a shame, but can only blame that really on the fact that we went down to 10 men. It does indeed go to extra time. Can we make one more substitution now? I don't know. Can. Right, now we think carefully here. Do we think about trying to get the goal, or do we just say, right, we'll take penalties at this point? I think the answer is we go for something in between. We could bring on Bassett. No, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go for Guichard. I'm going to do it. This is perhaps reckless, but the fact is, if we go to penalties, we're probably not favourites anyway. We can also bring Maloney in a bit and make sure that he's just a little bit more of a defensive assist there, whilst he can, as a Mezzala, he can still go wide enough that he can cover those areas. So hopefully that should keep that area fairly nicely covered and looking all right. The thing is, I can't really settle for 2-2. It's living it too much to chance. It may well still be 2-2, of course. We can't afford to kind of go for it massively. What we can do is go to cautious rather than defensive, I think. Meloni crosses the ball in. Ooh, see, we get a chance. Could work. And Borelli's through. Great tackle. Who was that? Looked like it was probably the left back, Perpetti. Heading towards half time and extra time. I mean, whilst I would like to win it in this time, obviously, given that we're down to 10 men, I would take penalties. But I just think we've got to go for it. We've got to try and not rely on that lottery. If we concede, we concede. Right. Colucci to Pizzoni. Last 15 minutes of the first game of the season. It's been a very exciting game, I have to say. That red card probably made it a more exciting game than it should have been. I think if we hadn't had a red card, I feel like we might have won this game quite easily. I'm certainly encouraged by the performance here. Roller, who I had serious doubts about, has had a good game. Colucci less so. And Borelli is there. Is it offside? No, it's given. Didn't look offside to me, to be honest. So, yeah, I think that probably is that. I'm going to go for it because, well, we might as well. As I say, I'm not, the performance is there. I'm not going to be too dispirited about this. And as I say, in terms of the actual cup, it makes very little difference. It's £10,000. £10,000 is a drop in the ocean of the debt that we have. Even though the board have made a sizable cash injection recently, which obviously will help things. And the new stadium as well, which is coming shortly, which hopefully should just push those incomes up and mean that we can service a slightly bigger wage budget. 8 minutes to go. Might as well go for it. At this stage, if we concede, it doesn't really matter. Meloni. Back to it. Papetti. Don't know what happened there. Didn't chase it. Zingaro. Good save by Agostini there. He's had a good game. 7.6 really does. 3-2 defeat. That does tell you a lot, though. Maybe it hasn't been as good a game as I thought it had been. I felt like we've been quite dominant. No, we haven't, have we? So the thing is, we have had a lot of chances, but they've just had more. The attack, I think, is quite good. Defence leaves something to be desired. And the fact is, Agostini today has saved this from being something of a rout for Pescara. Remember, this is a team in our league. So it's a team that we need to be beating at some point this season, really. Certainly getting at least a couple of points of, at least. A bit disappointing, particularly in that second half. It wasn't very good. Right, okay. So that is that for this video. The three areas that we really needed to improve, we haven't managed to improve, really. And that's a worry. Yes, the depth of the squad is bigger. We've streamlined it. There's more depth without having more players, which is a good thing. But I desperately need proper top quality in those left wing areas and preferably in that shadow striker area. And there are still 2 weeks to go, so I will try and get it. But it is tough. Stick with me through this season. It's going to be a tough one if we want to push up. I think we should be fine in terms of relegation this season. I don't think we'll be in that relegation playoff again. But we do need to do something to try and push up towards that mid-table. Two more players at least we really need over the next few weeks. I'll be back tomorrow and you'll be able to see the start of the league, hopefully with an improved squad. See you then. Bye for now.